Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kika and today I'm gonna show you 100 photo prop ideas that most likely you will already have at home. This is a great little video to come back to anytime you don't have a photo idea or you're just stuck for any creative motivation, inspiration, buzz. You can just come to this video and yeah, there's bound to be something that you're for sure gonna have at home or something that you can easily get that you can then use in a photo. Oh, it's like a reindeer or jingle bells. Oh, okay. The first category is going to be commodities, and the first one is toilet paper. That thing that we all stormed the supermarkets to get about a year ago. You can use that in a photo, turns out. Also, another very current thing is the face mask, but you can style it obviously and try to make it aesthetic for a photo. A shopping bag is a great prop. You can have some nice little groceries in there or just style it up so that it looks a little bit more pretty than maybe just your regular plastic bag, although that would also be a nice challenge to try to make a plastic bag look nice and aesthetic in a photo. This one is a very particular photo I did with a razor and it sort of became a vacuum cleaner, so you're welcome to take something really weird or something as everyday as a razor and turn it into something else. Now, cotton wool is great because you can make a little cloud, or you could even have it pose as snow and just get a little bit crafty. You know how you have that one box with all these keys that you have no idea where they lead to, but you can't really throw them away either because what if one day you will need that one? Well, I found these old keys and took a photo with them because they're actually quite nice to have in a photo, and also I like the symbolic meaning a key has and the ability it has to unlock something. And the last one of this first category is going to be Band-Aid. And this is sort of an idea that I've seen on Pinterest used quite a lot, but I think it's quite nice. And it again has so much meaning in itself. You put a Band-Aid on something when you've been hurt or you have a wound somewhere. So using that and then putting a little flowers in there. I've seen also people write some word on it. So that's also something nice and that you probably have at home, but maybe it's not your first go-to idea to use in a photo. Moving on to the next category, which is going to be artsy. So some artsy things you could infuse your photos with is a paintbrush, for example. And obviously if you have a paintbrush, why not also use paint? And yeah, one of my favorite ways is to go full on body painting. Another artsy kind of crafty thing is to use, if you're a knitter or a crocheter, or if you do some handicrafts, to show what you're working on at the moment. And then again, your supplies. So for example, yarn, or if you have paper supplies or pearls or whatever it might be, you could use that in a photo. I think there is something very romantic about old school technology, and now it looks like from dinosaur age, but in a photo, I don't know, it looks nicer, I think, often than just like our laptops and iPhones now. So you could use an old cassette tape if you have those. I actually ordered these cassette tapes online because I really wanted to have these colored ones. So you can even do that. There are shops that sells those still to this day. And yeah, this one is my dad's old Mac. I think it's an Apple computer that then I just put some flowers in to make it kind of a fun juxtaposition. Also, if you have Polaroid, so I have a video showing how you can make Polaroids without I don't have a Polaroid camera, but I made these myself, so I'll link that also so you can check that out. And again, of course, if you have an old vintage camera, that I think always looks super nice and just gives that like old school romantic feelings and the feeling of like, it was probably better back then when we didn't have these digital photos and being overwhelmed by so much just noise and photos. So I don't know, there is something nice in having those vintage cameras in your photos. And also lastly then vinyl, so vinyl records. So actually for this photo, I made these out of the, what do you call it, like the seaweed thing, the sushi thing that they make sushi with, because I was on a trip when I made this and it was a sponsored post. But yeah, vinyls, I think, again, evoke all this nostalgia and these retro vibes and look really nice in a photo. The next category is one of my personal favorites, which is party. The first one is glitter that you can get from practically any craft store, and you can use this, put it in your coffee cup or on your hands or on your face or just about wherever, and there's glitter in many different shapes, colors and forms. Do be mindful to have a vacuum cleaner at hand when you're gonna do this, because glitter sticks to absolutely everything and it's really difficult to get off, so also be mindful about where you're gonna do this project. The next one is party hat, which, I don't know, this sparks this childlike joy in me, and a photo is a perfect excuse to wear a party hat on a normal day. Confetti is also something that I think, well, will create a huge mess, but it's so much fun, and I think it's fun to be able to capture that in a photo and have this almost like you're creating rain, but indoors. Colorful rain, happy rain, joyful rain. This next one, I'm not sure how you pronounce this as English. In Swedish it's serpentine, and I tried to Google it and it just says like serpentine, but basically those curly papery thingies that you can get in craft stores. Those what I mean, and you can, again, super affordable, and you can use it in a photo because it's very visual, and I haven't done that many photos with this, but I wish I would do more because it's such a good prop to use in a photo. And if you don't have that at home, you can also create your own little, again, this is a word, I don't really know how you say this or pronounce this in English, but I think it's called like garland, or no, garland maybe. Well, anyways, this thing where you hang up and you might have small little flags. I made some with stars, just crafted these myself. And yeah, they're just very festive, and I think they're pretty beautiful to look at as well. And then we have the classic sparkler, which is a good idea to take when it's quite dark, because otherwise you won't really get the effect of that sparkler. And then, of course, I cannot make a video and not mention balloons. Balloons, so affordable, colorful, they just look so much fun. And also the round shape, I think, is something that people really connect to and respond to. There is just something, I don't know, do you feel like round shapes bring you joy? I feel like there's just something inherently happy and joyful about round shapes, and I don't know, I feel a little bit stupid to say this out loud, so let me know if I'm just alone with this or if you agree. And of course, the last one, fairy lights, which is one of my personal favorites. I love to use fairy lights in a photo, and they're, again, easily accessible, and you can get them in most stores, especially during winter time. And again, do be mindful that it is pretty dark when you're going to take a photo with fairy lights, because otherwise you just won't get that nice effect. Okay, moving on to toys, because yes, even though I am a grown-up, I still like to keep in touch with that childhood and playful side. And if you have children, or if you, just like me, like to go and look at toys, because I don't know, there are so many fun and fascinating toys nowadays, especially. And one of my favorites to use in photos is miniatures. So I've used this little boat miniature or cars. Those are great ways where you could play with proportions. Also plush toys, and again here I kind of played with proportions because this one is a very big one. He's called Alram, by the way, if you were wondering. If you have a puzzle, you could use that, or then you can create your own puzzle. So actually, by printing out a photo, an existing photo, and turning that into a puzzle and having these pieces come together in a photo. Playing cards is, again, something that most of us probably have at home, and maybe if you have some other games or board games that you'd like to use in a photo. And then the last one, a snow globe. Such a classic toy, and everybody will respond to it in some way, and maybe you have some memory from having a snow globe when you were a child and using it in a photo. I think they're so pretty, and again, has that round shape that we talked about earlier. So yeah, somehow it evokes joy and just good feelings. Next up, kitchen items. You know, I love my coffee cups. I've used them in many different ways, so I had to include them in here. Also teapots, and especially these old like teapots or kettles that you find maybe at your grandma's house are great to take a photo with. Spoons and utensils is not something you see in photos very often, but I created this a long time ago with all these old silver spoons, and I think there's a lot of creative potential in utensils. Also jars, and you could put some fairy lights in that jar or some flowers in it to make it a little bit more interesting and just have a story in it. And also wine glasses, or a glass that is see-through, and use that to your advantage, and how you could put something in there and just create some layers in that photo. Next up, some literary items. So of course, Books, yes, I've been using books in photos for a long time. I've mentioned that before, so here are some examples. Not gonna go too much into that. Another one that is really nice, which uses words, is having these temporary tattoos that you can again put on your body. I think those are really nice, and especially if you don't have tattoos, a nice way to still sort of pretend that you have a tattoo. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous and a little bit childlike, but who cares? Also, then using words. So these were just words that I cut out. I printed them out, then I cut them out and put in my coffee cup, and had to be very quick when taking this photo. Origami, if you know how to fold some origami, or you can go to YouTube and check out some tutorials. There are lots of those. Newspapers, again, a great way to use something that we usually have at home and use that in a photo, or a map. Somehow, I don't know, I don't think anybody uses maps anymore since Google Maps. So again, it evokes some of that nostalgia and yeah, like remembering the good old days when we still had paper maps. If you have an old book that you can tear apart, or you know that nobody's gonna be reading anymore, using book pages and going creative with that, or with a little bit of photoshopping, you can make some really magical photos. And then lastly, also notebooks, and if you have some beautiful journals, you could show that in a photo. All right, we have this little mini category here in between, which is called effects. The first one is something that I had been wanting to try out for years, which is smoke bombs. And I got this at just a local store here in Helsinki. Do be careful, you have to be outside to be using this, and actually they don't recommend that you hold them in your hands, so just be super careful when you're doing this, but it did produce some really nice and very epic results, I think. Using mirrors for reflections is also something that I time and time bring up, but I think it's just a really, really powerful tool for storytelling, and you can create so many layers and depth in your photo by using reflections. And my last little effect tip here is to use ice, and you can create your own little ice sculpture by popping it in the freezer and having that in a photo. I think ice, and especially when you have ice that you look pretty close at, it's super pretty, and it forms all these crystals and these textures and cracks. So that's, if you can maybe go out and take like a smoke bomb picture, just doing some little crafty thing with ice is a more accessible way to go. Next up, gardening. So if you have a little bit of green fingers and you have some plants at home, those are so nice to showcase in a photo. A little bit of foliage, I think it is called in English. One way I've been using or shown my plants is by having these funny plant pots, so with some faces that I've just found in a store and just thought it was so cute, so I had to get it. Also, if you have a watering can, I like watering cans because there is an action involved in it itself, so you can use that to your advantage when you're taking a photo, so that there is something happening and there is a story. Well, when we're talking about gardening, obviously flowers and all these things are included, but more specifically, you can use the petals of the flower and create some little artwork, maybe on a table, or also using the leaves, and especially during autumn when the leaves just turn all these super pretty colors, using leaves in a photo, I find time and time again can produce so striking image. If it's currently summer where you live and you have a lot of flowers, why not craft a floral wreath? I don't know, I think it's fun to pretend to be a little bit of a fairy for a day and also have a little bit of a crafting project, because you have to kind of create the wreath before. Or if you're not such a crafty person, just having a flower bunch and showing that, because, well, flowers, they won't last forever, but then at least you'll have the picture of it. I think recently a lot of us have been staying in bed quite a lot, and if you want to share that, one funny way is if you have a pillowcase with just some pattern or something fun, and having that pillowcase over your face in true lockdown style, or also hiding under a duvet. These are not easy times, and I think everybody will relate to those type of photos. One super obvious category is obviously clothes, because we are wearing something every day, hopefully. So if you have a specific clothing that has a pattern or a color that you could mimic or make that into a thing, then that's a great starting point for a photo. You could also stack up your clothes. So I often stack my knits because they have a lot of textures and I like the colors, and I don't know, I like how they look when they're stacked for some reason. Another way to showcase your clothes could be to hang them up on a clothing line. So for example, your dresses and hiding behind them, or if you have a garden and you're hanging some laundry up, that's also a fun way you could play with shadows and just how you take that photo. And I even once went all the way out in Stockholm into a big park and hung up my dresses in a tree. So if you don't have a laundry line, you can get creative with this as well. Moving on to accessories. If you, like me, have glasses, and now I don't know where they are, you could use glasses, and it's quite fun because it can create this layer in your photo. Or binoculars. I always think of Wes Anderson when I see binoculars. So they are also just a great way to use in your photo, and it evokes this sense of adventure and that you're on the lookout for something. Another accessory that most of us has is headphones, and you could always customize these little, so I use these flowers to just make them a little bit more striking. And lastly, just a scarf. Using that, again, I'm always thinking about like these old school movies and thinking about these ladies standing ashore when they're like waving the sailors goodbye. So lots of meanings and symbolic storytelling there that you could take advantage of in a photo. This next category I've named Rapunzel, but it's pretty short, but it's all sort of tied to the hair and the head. So I, for example, once made a do-it-yourself pair of ears, and this photo is a little strange, but I remember I had a lot of fun creating these ears. And similarly, I've done some do-it-yourself antlers, and so these are deer antlers, and then I put some flowers in there, and they were very wobbly, and it was a pretty difficult process to get this photo, but a lot of fun. If you don't want to get this extravagant and crafty, you could also just wear some hair bows or some clips in your photos and as your accessories to just spice it all up a little bit. All right, moving on downwards. So a day in your shoes. If you've maybe had a hobby that required some specific shoe wear, so I did ballet for so many years, and I really like how the point shoes look, so I've used those in some photos. And you also know that often, for example, sneakers, and then I put just some flowers in there or some boots, so how you could use some footwear in a creative way. Moving on to some weather related items. The first one is umbrella, and the umbrella. That thing that always will get broken when it rains because of the wind. But it is super powerful in a photo, and I think it is because, well, first of all, Mary Poppins, and second of all, the shape. It's a very recognizable shape, and I really like to have it in a photo because it again gives you some action. And also weather, I just find so inspiring. So umbrella, if you see a cute umbrella somewhere, definitely get that. It's a super good prop to have, or if you have one at home. Now on rainy days, also rubber boots, super cute to have in a photo, and not something that you get to wear every day, which I think that's why it's somehow so fun, and that's why it's fun to wear them and have them in a photo. And also the raincoat, maybe it's because of like Paddington and all these stories, and I don't know, raincoats, they're just cute. They're just cute. And rainy weather, there is something very hygge about it. Continuing along a little bit the same landscape, so beach bum and summer props. So the first one, inflatable animals, super good to use in photos, again, because they're very big, but they usually don't cost that much, and maybe you already have some, and again, you can get creative with how you use them. Also in summer when it's really hot, using a fan in a photo or hiding behind it or hiding very strategic parts in a photo can be a fun prop to use. And if you have a nice swimsuit or bikini, you could do this shadow trick, which takes a little bit of trial and error, and you need to have the sun just right, but produces some really fun results, I think. And lastly, of course, if you're near a beach, using seashells. I think seashells are so beautiful, and I love to collect them and just look what different kind of seashells you can find when you're at the beach. So definitely do that. Moving on to winter, which is where I am currently. So just using snow in your photo, totally free, and if it's winter where you are, very available. Also, of course, in winter you have the possibility before Christmas to use presents and also decorations, and gingerbread, so all these very wintry and Christmassy themes, but that's very specific maybe for that season. The next category I named big items because I wasn't really sure what to call them. The first one is chairs. So chairs, probably something you have at home again, but you could use it in a creative way. And usually if you have a prop like working with a chair, just how you pose, if it's going to be a self-portrait, might change a lot. So you can go really creative there and just have some fun and experiment with it. Bicycles are super great way because it again has an action in itself already and you're sort of going somewhere. So I've used bicycle many times, and then when I didn't have a real bicycle, I created some with some fruits. If you have pets at home, bring them onto your photo shoot, even though these cats are very uncollaborative and they will usually come in the frame when I don't really want them, and then when I try to take a photo with them it doesn't really work. So not the easiest one, but maybe if you have a dog it's easier. And the last big item is a cardboard box. This is a photo I took quite many years ago. I think it's still quite fun, and I think you could do a lot of things with using a cardboard box and maybe writing some funny text on there. And yeah, especially if you're moving, this could also be relevant, and again something very affordable but still quite visual, so it's a good prop to use. Okay, the last category is food. As you know, I love to use food in my photos and get playful with it. I think it's such a good resource to use because it's something that is easily available to us when you go to the supermarket or buy groceries, and it's something that you can also usually eat and use afterwards, so it's a win-win situation. The first one is one of my favorites, fruits, which I have used in many different ways. I love that the fruits usually have such a clear color and shape and texture, and most of us will be familiar with these fruits, so you can almost imagine what it will taste like and feel like. So it's almost like you get to play with more of the senses than just the visual sense. You also get that tactile and taste sense in your photos when you use fruits. Same goes for berries. There it's maybe a little bit more limited and depending on where you live, but berries also because of the vibrant colors and all these positive associations they evoke in you. Eat your vegetables. Yes, vegetables are also a good resource to use, and you can use them in a first perspective photo or then to create some kind of an artwork and just see what you have in your fridge essentially. Eggs. This will get messy, but again, a fun way to use in your photo. Also because eggs are so fragile, so I think there's something pretty exciting there to be working with eggs. And if you take it one step further, baking some pancakes. I don't know, pancakes, I think, who doesn't love a pancake? So making a pancake photo, and again, then you have all these pancakes afterwards that you can eat. For some reason, I really like the look of toast, which is kind of weird and quirky, but toast, especially with some jam, even though I don't particularly like the taste of toast and jam, but in a photo, maybe it's because of the color red, I really use that quite often. Unlike popcorn, I absolutely love, and I've created a popcorn unicorn and some clouds. It gets pretty greasy, so do be mindful about this when you work with popcorn. I'm not a huge fan of marshmallows, but I think they look very fun and poofy in a photo. Same goes for cotton candy, which is so sweet, even though sometimes it is kind of delicious. And of course, a classic, ice cream, which is very difficult to work with because it will melt, but you can use that to your advantage and actually do a photo with melted ice cream, or then skip the ice cream and just do a photo with the ice cream cone, maybe put some flowers in there or something else that maybe actually balls of yarn would also be really fun to do an yarn ice cream photo. Milk is super effective because it has such a distinct color, and I don't know, I really like the look of milk, which is again, it's a little bit like the toast thing. For some reason, I could just take photos with glasses of milk, but I'm not sure how popular that would be. Or maybe I should just create another account with like photos of milk and in jars. Yeah, but that's a good thing to use as well. And then one of my all-time favorites, coffee beans, to create these animals or to just do some artwork on a table. Coffee beans and the smell, so nice. Also, of course, like the most obvious thing, water. If you are able to take a photo on a really quick shutter speed where you get some droplets of water, you can use that or splash in some water or go in the sea or wherever the water is, or maybe you have a glass of water. yeah, I think it's something again that we maybe don't think of immediately because it's just so available or it's just there always, but it's actually a really cool and fascinating visual element that you can use in your photo. All right, we're nearing the end. Cookies, oh yes, I do love myself a good cookie and a cookie photo. And the last one, noodles. A very specific one, but noodles, yep, you can totally use that in a photo. All right, that was 100 photo prop ideas. As you can see, most of them are things that you can probably find very easily and get creative with it. You're welcome to take some of the ideas or how I've used them in my photos, but of course also experiment and see how you could use them in a new and fun, creative ways in a photo, or you could combine some props or whatever. If there was something that really sparked your interest, you don't have to think about it too much, just go for that. And if there was just, yeah, maybe you got some ideas, hopefully, from this. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more of these kind of photo ideas videos, I have a bunch of them, so I'll link them in the description below for some self-portraits, for some no-face self-photos, no-face portrait ideas. You can go and check those out as well. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video on Thursday. Bye!
There's a bee in my bonnet, hello, hello, a bee in my bonnet, hello. There's a bee in my bonnet, hello, hello, a bee in my bonnet, hello.